So Trailmakers recently updated, and it screwed up a lot of mechs. Ironically, this one that I do some intros with wasn't one of them at all. So that's cool. I bet this one got screwed up. Yup. It's very rigid. It's basically moonwalking because it doesn't have the strength. And it's interesting to see what the arms do because they just have higher strength now. Huh. I think they actually need to be a little bit weaker on that one. And this one's a little bit broken too. This is my buddy mech that can lift about 13 tons before update. I haven't tested since. And it's actually not doing too bad, outside of the lack of walking. So I wanted to go over what kind of changes they did, why mechs no longer work, and sometimes how to fix them. Notably, one of the bigger things they changed is the strength setting now is at 100 to base, and then you can turn it up to 200, which is honestly slightly too strong in my opinion for most stuff, but it's nice to have. Now, the thing about 100 base is that 100 now is not at all what 100 used to be, and I don't have a way to demonstrate that because that's just not, like, I don't have a version of the old one. But if I go to these are at strength 100. And then these are at strength 100. And I've tried this on a different mech and it did work. And I have to see if it works on this one or if I have to do some other changes. But if I set all of these to about 75, 75 is really close to what 100 used to be. But if I walk with this now, it's still a little, like, the gyros feel stronger, so it's wobbling. But walking with this now is slightly more possible. And this was never the best walker to begin with, but if I do that, that should work. Okay, and then I'm actually gonna try going a little bit lower on these. I'm gonna try 50 on those. Yeah. So that works out very well. That's basically all I needed to do to fix the walking on this. The jittering's a different story, and I bet the lifting's different. What I can do now, though, is I can actually increase the strength of these to 150, and that will give me so much more strength when it comes to being able to lift stuff. And you are able to see the hands are kind of like vibrating separate to the elbow a little bit, and they're being very jittery. I've heard some stuff about that too. There are a few other things they changed. They also changed how sparks work. So if I don't think I can make sparks with this. Here, what is something I can make sparks with? Maybe this? Yeah. So they changed sparks to only be where you were taking damage. Oh, they changed that too. That is much higher strength, so it just kind of snaps and start. But now you can see that sparks happen when where the collision happens. At the arm there. So this is so much better than when the entire build used to just shoot out sparks like a fountain, like some form of pyrotechnics. And I think that this works a lot better. Okay. So this one is, oddly enough, already decently, fixed. Strength 50, strength 50, strength 50. I think it was just weaker before. Strength 70 and 70. So this one already works. While I have a flamethrower here, I wanted to talk about a glitch that they added to flamethrowers, because I don't want it to exist. Like, this is kind of an overpowered glitch, and it's not very good. If I set the flamethrower to 0.2 duration, 0.2 pause, and then flame, it doesn't use fuel. It can recharge as fast as it's being used, meaning that you just don't consume fuel, and And what there should be there is a cooldown until the recharge, so you can burn it and then you can take a second and then it will start recharging back to full at the same speed. But they've accidentally removed that cooldown, I believe, and what that's made is a flamethrower you can launch infinite for some reason. Another thing they did in the update was make it so that you could have, like, two-wheeled vehicles. It's called the trike glitch that before, where you couldn't. But they've fixed that. So it used to be when you had a two-wheeled vehicle like this, the back wheel would just lift up, and it would cause a bunch of problems because you would just spin out, and you have to have two wheels in the ground for this kind of thing to work. And that is no longer an issue because they patched the trike glitch, meaning that I can make something like this, and then duplicate this over to here. Spin that around, and then I can drive, I can turn, I can do everything that I would want with a motorcycle, and the back tire isn't just randomly lifting up off the ground. So, finally we can have working motorcycles again, and they're really not too bad. Something else they did is they made steering hinges a lot stronger. So you can put these to 200 strength too. Something that makes, something that is easier with that is making walkers and stuff, like this one that I'm actively, well, not actively, but I've been working on in the background before this update, a lot better, because before, here I'm going to set all of these to about 75. Let's go 68 for no reason. Now, this is how it was before. It's basically hitting the ground. It's not walking as much compared to if I just set all of these to 200. Now, they go to the correct position, and I can walk with them. Cool. So, something else I have heard that there's a glitch on is if you have two servos connected to the same thing, like this, I have heard that it won't connect properly and it'll cause a bunch of wobbles, which I will place that there. Then I want a seat. I'm going to place the seat on a pedestal. So, I want one. Let's go to marine. Make something out of these. Okay, so that should work out, and then here we can have one of these be -1. Actually, we're going to go to speed 2 because that is what a lot of people use when making mechs with double joints like this, and we're going to go 90 degrees. Not hold position. And then we're going to put some weight at the end of this, like so. And it's a little wobbly. It is certainly weird. Okay, now what happens if I set the angle using one of these? I'm just going to use an ore block to 0.5. 0.05. So it's not going to go that far, but I've heard that this will cause it to wobble a bunch. Yeah, and you can see that a little bit. It's sort of got this oscillation, especially if you toggle it a few times, and that's not perfect. But I heard that a solution, and we're going to test this out live, is if you only have one. Ooh, why is it bouncing like that? That looks like the connections between blocks. That is the connection between blocks. So I'm going to remove that, put that in there, and then put that there. And we should be able to set the strength on this to 200, so it's going to be the same strength as if I had 2 of them. And it's still a little wobbly. But it's definitely less wobbly than when I had 2. We also are moving a lot of weight on here. We're moving about 400 kilograms right here. Yeah. And being able to move it like that with only a little bit of wobble isn't too bad, but something else you can do, probably, I haven't tested this either, is... I should probably move those weights to right here, because... okay. I can move these two. Because I want to put a gyro on this. Not that, full strength. And what that will do is it will kind of dampen some of the wobble from it. And I'm going to put one right here as well for this axis. And that way, even when you go to like 0.1, it's not wobbling nearly as much as we had to. So that's cool. So that is going to wrap up my update video on this update. Overall, I think that the update has good potential for adding stuff to the future, and I enjoy being able to have extra strength things. However, there are definitely some bugs, such as this just not taking fuel anymore, so you can just have an infinite flamethrower for no reason, and a few other bugs with the strength and stuff. I found that the equation y equals like 4 over 3, so 4 over 3x is a good graph for what the strengths are, and what that means is about 0.75 of what it is right now should be what it was before. This is not a perfect system by any means, and there are other issues with the servos that you might have to address and fix, but it's certainly something you can, like, help with. Like I did with the with my buddy back here, because this honestly walks better than it did before. Thank you for watching. Have a good day, and see ya.